Hello everyone and welcome to the Spacemen From Pluto Podcast. I'm your host this week, Ben. Joining me as always,
Dan,
James,
and Christian.
Well, with the release of our video, Time We Saw Trash, Batman vs Superman, Dawn of Justice, the Ultimate Cut,
catchy.
.mp4.
we're going to be having a little chat about kind of rivals versus in movies. But before that, please like and subscribe. And comment down below that you subscribed. But super quick, before we talk about some of our favourite versus matchups in movies, we've got to address, since we're a film and television kind of chatting podcast, we've got to talk about the big news, the upcoming what's going on in the world of film. The Oscar nominations, that really relevant ceremony, have been released for this year. It was kind of interesting to see what was going to be nominated because, you know, there's nothing really out in that sense. So does anyone have any immediate, we'll come straight up. We've not really watched any of the films nominated, but is there anything about anyone, any actors, any directors that we've got things to say? Christian, you're burning to say something.
How did Mank get 10 nominations?
Look, what else was going to get nominated? I think this is the point. More than anything, what these nominations say is it just really speaks volumes about like the quality of films that have come out over the past year.
Well, I disagree with that because we've not seen any of them.
No, but the fact that Mank is in there and we haven't seen or even heard of half of them really tells that they were struggling to find films for this.
In all fairness, I've heard of all of the films nominated. I just haven't seen them.
Yeah.
And there's some good ones in there, and I think it will be the case where Mank will be like, oh yeah, we've been nominated for 10 awards. I reckon it'll win maybe 2.
I don't think it'll win any. I think it's a proper old style.
I think it'll win some.
I think it'll win some, but it'll be like sort of
maybe technical stuff.
It'll win like
might get score.
I was gonna say I think it'll get score, and makeup and hairstyling are the two that I think it's like pretty much dead set to get.
I mean, it's probably the biggest. It's probably the biggest film of the year, really. I guess that's not kind of like a superhero film.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if it maybe picks some up, just because it's the Academy that vote on this, and some of them might be sat there like, "Oh, it reminds me of the good old days."
It's a super Oscar bait film.
That's definitely.
It's about Citizen Kane. If they didn't give it Oscars, they'd be hurting the Citizen Kane mythology, wouldn't they? So, that's one of the reasons.
The Citizen Kane fandom would be up in arms.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh yeah, all 4 of them.
Both of them.
I'm kidding.
I will say though, I'm actually really chuffed for Riz Ahmed getting a Best Actor nomination.
I like a bit of Riz Ahmed.
For kind of following him since Four Lions when that came out over 10 years ago, which is hard to say. It's really cool for him to see. I really want to watch the film. I wanted to watch it anyway before it before it was cool.
The Sound of Metal, right?
Yeah,
as a couple of fans of metal, Ben and Christian, I'm surprised you've not seen this yet. It seems to be your thing.
It's not necessarily about metal.
I was going to say that I don't even think that they're a metal group in the film. I think
he might be. I think he's in a duo. I've tried not to know about the film.
I think it's a post-punk duo.
How useful for a podcast where you're going to talk about said film.
I try not to know about it. It's about going deaf. That's all I know. It's about.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
That's cool. That's an interesting.
I think he's a drummer that slowly goes deaf as the film goes on, and it's about him dealing with that.
And because we talked about on another podcast of actors who's going to survive post a TV show. We had the Stephen Yeun.
Yeah, Stephen Yeun.
Stephen Yeun from Walking Dead's now got an Oscar nomination, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for Minari, which is another film that's been on my watch list. It sort of came onto my radar because I like A24 films, and it sounded like an interesting film. So,
kind of,
yeah.
Like all the films, I think, except for The Father, which I don't actually know I literally know nothing about. I'm kind of have a vague interest in all of them that are nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah.
Like it is kind of like in terms of like the impact in terms of like the nominations themselves. It's a pretty good year for like moving things forward. About like I think it's a lot of firsts this year. Like the the lady who got nominated for Best Director is like what was her name? Chloe Zhao. It was like the first like Asian woman to be nominated for Best Director. I think like the 5th ever or something crazy like that. And
that's cool.
I think Riz Ahmed's the first Muslim actor to be nominated for Best Actor and stuff. And I think the Best Picture, Judas and the Black Messiah, is the first ever all-black producing nominees for a film. So it's like it's a strange positive of a. If it was like a normal year, would these guys get these nominations? Like chuff, Sacha Baron Cohen's Oscar nominated. What a great!
I was gonna say,
what a great world we live in.
It's nice to see Borat though. Like he hasn't been nominated for Borat.
It's just strange.
Well, she has. His co-star was.
Yeah.
And the film.
I was gonna say Borat has been nominated for like, is it 3 awards or 2?
Something. I think maybe 2. Yeah.
I think it's 2. Which is as many as Tenet has been awarded nominations for. Which
didn't get good. It didn't get best sound.
No, the first thing I did was, it was like the Oscar nominations are out, and the first thing I did was scroll down to sound to make sure that Tenet hadn't been nominated.
Yeah, exactly. It was just insane. But yeah, you want to say something about Sacha Baron, Dan?
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say it's just funny that like the guy who played Ali G on the 11 o'clock show in the late 90s is now getting an Oscar potentially.
So cool.
So yeah, his career it's been an interesting one, that's for sure.
Yeah. So and like Viola Davis is the first black woman with the most Oscar nominations, I think.
I thought you were gonna say nominated. I was like, I swear she's been.
Oh yeah, loads.
She won anything?
Yeah, did she win for Fences? I think she might have.
I thought so. Yeah, but I could be wrong.
She might have won once or twice. I know because you were interested, James. Like Promising Young Woman picked up some nominations.
Yeah,
cool. Carey Mulligan's got one.
Best Picture. I'm desperate to see that film. If it was like on Prime, like even if I had to rent it, I would have seen it like ages ago. But there's just no way for us to actually watch it here in England at the moment, which is quite annoying.
We'll definitely do some sort of thing for
yeah, man. We'll see if we can.
I was going to say, I'm going to try and find as many places, like find places to try and view these films before the Oscars, so that I can go in like with my own opinions and see if it pans out.
A really fun fact as well, Glenn Close was nominated for Best Supporting Actress in a film called Hillbilly Elegy. For the same role, she's also been nominated for a Razzie.
Oh,
which is pretty.
That's pretty
weird.
Yeah, I mean it's
like
happened.
What's going on there?
Yeah, it's happened before. I think where an actor has been nominated for an Oscar Halle Berry won an Oscar and won a Razzie back to back in the same year, but that was for 2 different films.
Yeah, right.
And she absolutely wonderfully, she gave exactly the same like tear-filled acceptance speech of how proud she was at both the Oscars and the Razzies.
That's pretty good.
You've got to rate that.
How often do actors actually turn up to the Razzies? Like, because I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of them go, look, I don't want to turn up to this award show that you're giving me for being crap.
I think Halle Berry turning up was like a real rarity. I
that's what I mean.
Heard of that she did it.
Yeah, I think
Halle Berry. She seems pretty cool.
I was going to say, I think she was turning up to just sort of, take it in stride and be like, yeah, I know that Catwoman was terrible.
I've actually never seen Catwoman. Like, I missed a lot of those early 2000s, like, naff superhero films.
Ben can't wait to say it again. Unbelievable.
We're going to have to educate you.
Like, I missed that. I missed Ben Affleck's Daredevil, the Elektra film. There's a bunch of them that like just sort of passed me by, strangely enough.
It's probably because they're all bad.
Yeah, but I don't know why I missed them, because I saw the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films. I saw the Fantastic Four films. I don't know why I never really latched onto them as a kid.
I think I had a very small marketing budget. I think it was a very low budget production.
Yeah, they were also all 15s. That was something they had in common. So they weren't aimed at kids.
There you go. Then that's probably it.
I know, because this is for us because we're cinema employees. Do you remember that Pinocchio movie?
Yes.
That was bizarre.
That got nominated for best makeup and hairstyling.
No way.
So that little weird Pinocchio film is Screen 2.
Nominated. The director of Pinocchio, Roberto Benigni, directed Life is Beautiful in 1997 and won an Oscar, and it's one of the infamous Oscar acceptance
Yeah.
I love
clips
his
where he
brother
jumps
ham
up,
and cheese.
where he jumps all over the seats. What was
Yeah.
that?
I said I love his brother ham and cheese.
But no, that's panini.
Ah,
This is panini.
18 episodes.
But anyway, his return after that, his follow up was Pinocchio, in a couple of years later, and it was critically panned. It was regarded as like really not a good film.
So he's done it again.
So he's done it, and now he's come back. He's done it again. He's
So
gone back to Pinocchio.
He's done Pinocchio twice.
Pinocchio, the Bonini cut.
Yeah.
And now he's got his Oscar noms for it. Like, so I guess he wins.
Yeah. If at first you don't succeed, try and try again.
I'd love a director to do that, to just do the same film like 8 times until they succeed.
No,
What, you mean
Zack
like Martin
Snyder's
Scorsese?
Zack Snyder's doing it. No. We don't want people
Actually,
to do the same.
I
Scorsese.
suppose that's what Scorsese did. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
don't want
he
them to do
seems
that.
to just be getting worse.
Yeah.
He says having seen none of them. I'm completely going off what I've heard people say.
Wow, what an opinion with no information to give. He's just said an opinion.
No,
I
I'm just going off what
respect
I've heard people saying.
You've got to respect it.
I thought I'd out myself before anyone else watching this was like, he's not seen any of them.
There's not enough people in capes for James to
Exactly,
get
man.
that's the
Oh
problem. So-
my!
I mean,
If Robert De Niro wore a cape, then I'd watch it.
I
Whack Joe Pesci in some lycra, I'll watch it.
speaking of some outrage for James, I mean, no Sonic.
Oh mate, don't get me started. I was going to wait until we mentioned any Oscar snubs to bring up my boy. I'm
That was like-
fuming. Can't believe they didn't give it Best Picture. What a disgrace.
I know. I mean, I can't believe it didn't even get nominated for the animations.
I know. Best visual effects.
Yeah.
Best
Nothing.
performance by a supporting hedgehog.
I can't even remember even what came out to think of what was snubbed or not. I can't even think.
No,
I mean,
there haven't been
Nothing
any
really.
films.
Like,
Yeah, I was
this
gonna
is
say-
the thing. The only films I've seen of all of them are Mank, which I didn't enjoy, but then in the best animated category, having seen Soul and Onward, they are both really good films. I think Soul will pick it up,
Yeah.
and I also wouldn't be surprised if it gets one for soundtrack as well.
Yeah, because Trent and Atticus have been nominated for Soul and Mank, so it
Yeah.
really is theirs to lose.
I was gonna say if they lose it now, then they're gonna be they're gonna be so
Yeah.
pissed off.
It's really cool as well. Lakeith Stanfield was nominated for Best Supporting. Really cool. Let's get on to the main reason why we're here. Versus is in movies. 2 characters pitted against each other. What are some of the ones that we kind of think of, some of our favourites because of Batman v Superman?
So I think my favourite rivalry, it's gotta be Sherlock Holmes versus Moriarty.
That's actually a really good one.
Yeah, that is a good round.
I didn't mean to sound so surprised at that, if I'm honest.
I've made up a good one. Yeah, so we're also, weirdly enough, the Sherlock Holmes films with Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law are kind of my guilty pleasures, and
I really like them.
and I'm
Yeah,
a
I
little
think
bit.
I think
they're a
they're
bit of
pretty
fun.
good.
I like them. I like them. Obviously, Robert Downey Jr. is just doing his Robert Downey Jr. thing throughout them, but he brings, he brings that charm to the role. He brings something a bit different to the role. I love the overall kind of vibe and atmosphere of the world of those films as well.
Some good
And-
music in them.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
that sets the Sherlock Holmes feel really well, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And the second film I thought was slightly better than the first one as well. Obviously, Jared Harris played Moriarty in that, and he played a very good role. As we all know, he's a pretty decent actor.
Love Jared Harris.
Me and Ben have been watching a bit of wait, where has this come from? I was going to say we've been watching a bit of Whitechapel, but he's not in Whitechapel.
Just
He's in
wanted
the
to mention it.
Yeah. No, me and Ben have been watching a little bit of The Terror, and he's in that.
It's very good.
As good as you'd expect, and obviously he was in Chernobyl as well. I'd say he's probably one of my more favourite actors, actually.
Yeah, I really like him. Really like
And
him.
and he really brought like an intensity to Moriarty. Like
Yeah,
I really liked.
The fact that they
this-
didn't cast him as young Dumbledore is a travesty.
Ah,
He's Richard Harris's son.
yeah, that would have been
Yeah.
nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
It would
but
have been
Jude Law.
so good. Yeah,
But Michael Gambon is Dumbledore then.
Not the
That's true.
original Dumbledore.
So it would have been a nice tribute that day.
It would have been good.
But I also liked. I like Sherlock Holmes in general. I like the character of Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
I like just the guy's basically like has a super powered brain and just can work out anything.
Good old discombobulate.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
That entire sequence.
But are you a fan of the modern version, the
BBC?
Cumberbatch one?
I was just going to mention it. Yeah, no, I do like them. I think a weird thing with that TV show is that the second episode of each series seems a bit weak compared to the first and third ones, and it's just
the final season didn't end particularly high.
Yeah, but again, like a really good performance of Moriarty. By Andrew
Scott's really
I
good
really
in
liked
that.
his performance.
That
Hi. I heard after a couple of years after the fact, his performance was apparently a bit like divisive among fans, and people didn't really like his performance. I love his Moriarty. I think he's really
I
engaging.
think he's a really good Moriarty.
There's weird elements to it that I think there's almost moments in it where it's like, are they about to kiss? Like, what's going on? Like, there's a weird tension between them. But I think it kind of works because that's kind of the point of Moriarty and Sherlock, in that they're kind of like two sides of the same coin and they find each other fascinating.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think like it works, but I'd imagine that's why some fans were like, I don't like it.
I think maybe because he was a bit like, not over the top. He was a bit like, whoa,
flamboyant.
It was very theatrical, very theatrical.
Yeah. So maybe that's
I like
quite
the
different.
switch in his reveal, because you meet him earlier in the episode and he's a bit weird, and then when you realise he's Moriarty and he just turns it on.
Maybe I've got it wrong.
I think I really like the way that in the TV adaptations of Holmes and modern ones that they work around Holmes's like powers of deduction in different ways. Like with the BBC version, it's very kind of like you go into his mind and he picks very, very specific things one by one to work out exactly what's happening in a certain situation. With Robert Downey Jr., it's like he does the same thing kind of. But it's usually to beat someone up. Like there's that really good scene in the first one, I think, where he's the bare knuckle fighting.
Yeah, the bare knuckle boxing.
And he's just like,
so it says
if I do this,
discombobulate.
it's like, if I do this, then he'll do this, and then I'll do this, and I'll do a left hook, and then
Yeah.
he'll fall because his weight is certain. He's weighted to a certain direction, and then it just plays out the scene as he's like deducted it, and I just thought that's great. That's quite good.
Yeah, I quite like that.
I love because they always try and use they always use like sort of interesting editing and camera work to sort of portray Holmes's mind, especially in that scene with the sort of use of spinning and slow motion to sort of get across how he's figuring stuff out.
Yeah, it's cool though. I hope they make a third one with. I think they are.
Apparently, apparently the Guy Ritchie's coming back, and the third one is slated for February next year.
But
like,
I don't think
it's going to happen
feel like
February
it's kind
next
of one of
year.
those ones that's maybe in a bit of production hell. Like,
Yeah.
I'd love it. I'd love a third one. But
Yeah.
I don't know if we will get one.
I know that Guy Ritchie wanted to step away for a while to do other projects.
To do Aladdin.
I was going to say, and that's why we ended up with King Arthur.
I reacted to that as if I've seen it. I've never seen the film.
it's fine. It's actually just what it is. Just like,
Yeah. Wasn't that another one that was like really trying to be something? Like it was supposed to set up a whole Arthurian cinematic universe.
you know.
Oh my god.
The modern Sherlock show as well. At the time, I thought the way, because talking about the way he deducts, like the way it just showed text messages for the first. Just having it on the screen.
It was quite a new technique, wasn't it?
Something really new, and like the
Quite
visual
stylish.
story. Yeah, that visual storytelling was really slick and stylish, and it was a real strong point of the show.
I feel like with a character like Sherlock, you can't afford to do it just like plain. Like you've got to do it with some sort of style and flash and sizzle to the filmmaking.
Yeah. You've got to get those like camera tricks and editing bits and sort of like visuals to really make just to really allow the audience to be put into Sherlock's shoes and see like sort of represent in a way what he sees, how he thinks. Because it'd be boring if you just like did like a pan up and you just watched him stare at someone for a second and then go, Your shoes are muddy.
Speaking of like the whole King Arthur one, though, do we think there's any limit to what they're going to try and create a cinematic universe out of at this point?
No.
Like,
No.
there's been so many ridiculous ones pushed. So,
Yeah.
like, but, like, it worked for Marvel because, you know, Marvel's always been a universe. Like, with the comics, you've always had separate intertwining storylines, and that worked. And it made perfect sense to go towards a universe rather than just straight up sequels. But I mean, come on, King Arthur.
So
what-
funny. Sorry. I was gonna say.
I was just gonna say, like, Warner Brothers is trying to set up their cinematic universe with Space Jam 2. They've already tried to set up a Warner Brothers animations universe with Scoob.
Oh God, yeah.
They've, you know, that you have the Dooku that they tried to set up. That everyone just wants a cinematic universe, and they'll try and make it out of anything.
There's a writer director now called Taylor Sheridan who did Hell, High Water and Wind River. He did a TV show called Yellowstone about like some farmers in America, something like that. That's now got a television like cinematic universe because I saw a thing for it. They announced 3 TV shows set in the Yellowstone universe for Paramount Plus or something. I was like, 3? That is strong. You're
yeah.
going in big then on this.
I was gonna say
People
Paramount.
watch it.
Yeah, Paramount Plus are now apparently trying to do like an extended SpongeBob universe. And the other, Disney are of course doing their Disney theme park cinematic universe, which is being headed by the co-creator of Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, Ronald D. Moore. Well,
like-
I guess he's the showrunner from the.
What's going to connect those films? Like, other than the fact that they all happen to be based on, like, theme park rides.
I honestly don't understand what the need for any of this.
Like, I think if you
Money.
can do it well and you can pick
Well.
the right thing to base it off, they're great. Like, they can work really well, and I think they're a nice, new, different way. Well, they were a nice, new, different way of storytelling. But I just think they're trying too hard with certain things.
I think The
to
Walking
try and
Dead's
push
trying to
them.
do it. They're doing a Daryl Carroll,
Daryl and
So-
Carol.
the Rick movies, Walking Dead spin-off shows. They're trying to do that.
It's just a case of just throwing as much shit at the wall as possible and seeing what sticks, basically, isn't it? That's and sometimes stuff will actually work out, but most of the time it won't.
Honestly, I remember way back when they tried to start it with Dracula Untold, reading about the Dooku, and they were like, "Oh yeah, and we're gonna do the Creature from the Black Lagoon and the Mummy and the Werewolf, the like Wolfman, and we're gonna do all of those again, and then they're all gonna come together in this big Avengers style film." And it's like, and fight what?
Well, this is the thing. It's like, it's all well and good having a cinematic universe, but there needs to be a reason for all of these films to come together.
Money.
Because I was just thinking, like, you could have a Van Helsing type character who fights each of them, and that's all well and good, but it makes more sense to have a Van Helsing series rather than try to bring them all together. Like,
It's like, oh yeah, you know, Disney will be like, oh yeah, we've got Pirates of the Caribbean, we've now got a haunted mansion, a new haunted mansion movie, we've got It's a Small World. How do you bring all those together?
Think about it. Just exactly what Dan said. You just throw it out the wall and see if you even get to that point where you then have to address the culmination of it. We probably won't get there in 10 years' time. So
Yeah.
we might as well just cash in some chips now on our streaming service that no one's going to pay for. So
They're like, well, you know, we didn't get to the culmination of that, but at least people liked It's a Small World.
yeah,
and you know what, I suppose at the end of the day, if they just make a film and then throw in a couple of Easter eggs and the director goes, oh yeah, it's set in the same world as the other film, it gets clicks, people write articles about it, it's free publicity, I suppose, at the end of the day. And like you're saying, Ben, they might not ever have to actually pay it off. So
exactly.
It's like you don't have to set up the world or anything, do you? You don't have to set, like, it's already been done for you, so you can just kind of jump in there and just do a generic sort of story. And like, it's like Game of Thrones has several spin-offs in production, don't they? Like that Fire and Blood, that's obviously set in the same, is that what it's called, Fire and Blood? Set in the same universe, and there's something about, like, potentially about Arya and her journey and everything. It's like, that's what they'll do. They'll just, like, run everything into the ground because enough people will watch it, and it'll make a bit of money, and then they'll think of something else to run into the ground.
It's like I feel like spin-offs are a slightly different ball game, because that's just, you've got your main core thing, and then you're just going off from there, and it goes and does its separate thing. It's more like trying to do these ones where they go off and they have their own separate ones, and they keep coming back to each other, and they all live in this same world. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
But spin-offs are all set in the same universe, and it's the same thing.
No, but that's what I mean. It's like when they go off and do their separate thing, it's more like with the monster ones, if they each were doing their separate thing, but it happens to be in the same world, I feel like that's okay. It's not necessary, but it's more like, how are you then going to find a ham-fisted way of doing your Avengers team-up film? Yeah. That's more why I think
they all have these hub films, don't they? Like where everything kind of that's what Phase 1 and Phase 2 and Phase 3 are all about for the Marvel thing, where it's like everything orbits this one film and one moment that everyone kind of converges on, and that's what that keeps everyone's anticipation up. And I think the audience already kind of had an idea of where that was going, because they're already familiar with the stories and what have you, and then they just built their audience up because they made those films on the outskirts of that idea quite good and watchable for people who weren't into comic book films. Whereas with the horror dark universe, or what the hell it was called, no one knew what the central hub was. The filmmakers didn't really know what it was, and so it failed. And it's kind of the same with DC as well. No one really knows what the central thing is with DC, and they can't decide what it is. It's all very, very confused. Well, you need to have a vision if you're going to do it,
In short, it's the thing of Marvel did it, they took their time and they did it well, and now everyone else who wants one just tries to play catch up, and they rush it and they don't plant the seeds and let them grow.
Yeah, well, the problem is that they're all trying to do the same thing, but they're all doing several characters in one movie. Even with the Dooku, Dracula Untold had werewolves in it and was trying to set up the Wolfman. The Tom Cruise's The Mummy.
Did it?
I'm pretty sure it didn't it? Or am I misremembering that movie? Maybe I'm thinking of a different movie.
I don't think it had any werewolves. I'm pretty sure it was it's a pretty just vampire Dracula film, and then at the end it shows that he's actually in the modern day, and so is Charles Dance, and the game is afoot, or whatever he says.
The game begins.
I think it's Let the Games Begin.
Let the games begin. The game is afoot as Sherlock Holmes.
And
everything comes back to Sherlock Holmes.
But in Tom Cruise's The Mummy, they have that entire section in the middle of the film where Russell Crowe comes in as Dr. Jekyll and then has a flip out and turns into Mr. Hyde, and it's why is this here?
Yeah.
Having said that, though, I'm quite excited for the Lord of the Rings prequels show.
But this that's a spin-off. I'd say it's a different sort of
I was going to say
game.
that's not a universe thing though. That's just a.
Well, it's kind of it's
though,
not a
it's
universe. No, it's not, because if it's not an extension of the New Line Cinema Peter Jackson directed Lord of the Rings. It's its own kind of separate thing, but it's riding the coattails of those previous films, but they're not in the same universe, if that makes sense. They're in a separate Lord of the Rings universe.
I wouldn't say that we've got a Harry Potter cinematic universe at the moment with these Fantastic Beasts going on. I'd say they're quite a separate thing. It's a spin-off, because they're never going to join. We're never going to see Newt Scamander and Harry Potter on screen together. Although, you know what, I was just about to say, having seen the last one, who knows? I wouldn't be surprised.
J.K. Rowling just needs to sell Harry Potter to Disney, and then they can just say, all that stuff that you wrote before, it doesn't count, it's not canon anymore. Here's Boba Fett.
Now Warner Brothers own
Chuck them all in.
Warner Brothers own Harry Potter, and they're not letting their grip anywhere off that. They're gonna rinse that as much as they possibly can.
Disney gonna have to buy Warner Brothers.
It will happen eventually.
Yeah, it's not the Harry Potter franchise. It's not going anywhere. It's the Fantastic Beasts kind of spin-off films are in a bit of a weird place at the moment. They're not particularly good. There's no other plans to create any other Harry Potter universe films, as far as I know.
No, there is.
No, I was going to say, isn't there a TV series coming?
There's a TV series coming. There's, of course, the game, which is coming, that's set
Oh,
in a completely different era, and there's still plans to do Fantastic Beast 3, 4, and 5. So
Oh, I thought they were going up. I thought they were having like 6 or 7 of them.
no, they've only planned to go to 5 apparently.
Okay.
They're so when Daniel Radcliffe's 45, they're so gonna bring him back.
You
Harry
reckon?
Potter. Yeah.
If they can get him back.
The money that will be made if they could bring back Harry, Ron, and Hermione's older it's dumb not to do it.
I just want to see Rupert
gritty-
Grint with his little pot belly again.
They'll do like a gritty Harry Potter, won't they, where everything's got like everything's got noise all over the frame and everything. Like digital
Zack Snyder's
noise,
Harry Potter.
grainy as hell. Yeah, it's like desaturated, and it's like, but how does Harry Potter feel after using the Avada Kedavra spell on someone he thought was his friend? He's killed Ron. That could be the setup.
Oh my god.
Malfoy
I
becomes
had to
good.
kill
Teams
Ron.
with Harry.
People are using Expelliarmus, so it's blowing limbs off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's where we headed, though. That is where we're headed, because everyone will have grown up. Everyone will be kind of older, and
We all need to conform, watch TV, obey,
I see what you're doing.
submit.
Getting
Then
us back
sleep.
on track there.
Yeah, good little segue that.
It was a good little segue.
Was it a great segue? You just said a thing. It wasn't related to what we just said.
It was.
That's true, actually. It's related to Christian, but it's not related in any way to what we've just been discussing.
It was a good way to get us back on track, but it wasn't related to what we were saying.
I appreciate these attacks.
So, one of the I interpreted this question, this statement very differently than you guys. You've gone for like sort of big rivalries or like so mine, I interpreted the question differently. So I was thinking about sort of like iconic, either like one-on-one fights or like one versus many fights. And one of the ones that stuck out in my mind is the fight from They Live.
Tell them how long the fight is. Or set the scene.
Basically, Rowdy Roddy Piper is trying to get Keith David to put on a pair of glasses, and it devolves into a 5 minutes 50 seconds fist fight.
Something stupid.
It's just a long fist fight with. I'm pretty sure it's got barely any music, and it's just them punching each other in the face, kicking each other, going for like crotch punches and kicks, and it's just them throwing each other about for a solid 5 minutes.
Wrestling moves, I think, as well, doing some wrestling.
Yeah, dropping some wrestling moves, and it's just such a like goofy, over the top fight scene that happens for a ridiculous amount of time in this film. I just remember watching this film and being like, why is this fight scene so? I mean, they got Rowdy Roddy Piper, so I guess I understand why the fight scene went on as long as it did, but it's so.
It's one of the best examples of a movie literally stopping.
Yeah,
to do the
I was gonna say, and it's over. So like, he's basically just trying to get him to put on these glasses, and he's like, no, and he throws the glasses on the floor, goes to stomp on them, and then they just get into this like massive fight where one of them's trying to break the glasses and the other one's trying to get him to put them on.
It's just in an alley as well, James. Just in a dirty alley. Just getting grubby as well as it goes on, getting sweaty. It's quite good.
The best thing about that is the idea of someone just walking past it on the street.
There might even be shots of passers-by.
I'm
sure
wide
you
shots
can't
of these two drunk-looking men having a wrestle.
Because they literally are just like, it's not even like some of the other fights I've got down are like masterclasses of like super well choreographed fights. This fight has some well choreographed moments, but mostly it's just two men sort of like punching it. Like one of them will punch one of them in the face, the other one will punch back, then one of them will go to punch him in the crotch, the other one will block it and then like kick him. And it's just like basic moves for the most part of them knocking each other onto the floor and rolling about, sort of hitting each other, trying to solve this sort of meaningless problem of why doesn't he want to wear glasses?
Yeah, it's really weird in this pretty funky. It's really worth the watch. We'll probably get it watched.
I was going to say it's a great
I like
film.
a bit of Keith
honestly.
David.
Yeah, you keep it from the thing zone, and it's a
Yeah.
kind of a shame. I think I would have enjoyed it a bit more if it was Kurt Russell, of course, instead of Ralph
Oh yeah,
in the film. But what can you do?
I was going to say Kurt Russell must have been like busy that week or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Speaking of fight sequences that last a while, this isn't to do with the main topic, this is just a little thing that I watched the other day. I finally got round to watching Atomic Blonde.
Oh, yeah.
And the film as a whole is okay. It's alright. It's a bit confusing with double agents and triple agents and people double crossing each other. But one thing I will say is from 1 hour 20 to 1 hour 30, there is one action sequence with not a single cut.
Is this the
Is it that one?
staircase?
Yes. And it's quite an interesting one to maybe if you want to just check that out in in isolation. It's pretty good. I was saying this to my housemate. I don't think it's as good as the John Wick film's combat, because I feel like with John Wick, it's combat that could be in any film, but there's no cuts. Whereas some of the fighting in this one, it feels like they've had to tone down the combat a little bit so that they can do it without cuts, if you know what I mean.
Is it really one take, or are there hidden cuts?
I'm sure
There's a couple hidden cuts, anything like that. But there's a lot of sort of, you actually see the fighting, and there's a real nice sort of degradation of these people as they're fighting. Like, you can see them getting more tired and exhausted, but still having to try and fight and go through it as they go through. It's a really cool scene. The film's okay. It's got a good scene in it, though.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I've seen bits of that scene before now, because I'm a big fan of like sort of single shot fight scenes like that. And
Charlize Theron, who doesn't like her?
I was gonna say it's a really good scene of just her fighting her way down this set of stairs, and it genuinely does seem like they are getting tired because it's a single shot scene.
It's cool, man.
I've heard the film's very... If you didn't know it was the 80s, the soundtrack will really let you know. I heard it's a very 80s popular soundtrack.
I reckon there's probably more time in that film where there is a song playing than there isn't.
That's mental.
I'm pretty sure it's got Atomic by Blondie, hasn't it? That's the lead track of the
It's good, man. There's a little bit of nice style, but it's one of those films for me that I feel like it was really creeping on being something, but it didn't quite get there.
Is it kind of riding just the John Wick coattails a bit to get some money?
Maybe,
and it's a bit Jason Bourne. It's a bit kind of that type of like gritty sort of secret agent. But then they've gone, let's add the 80s because everyone loves the 80s.
It's the Cold War, isn't it? I think it's also based on a graphic novel.
Right. Okay.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure they're also setting up to possibly do a sequel. I think.
No.
I heard that they're going to try.
Oh, I don't know if they are. I just mean like when the film ended, I didn't like. It doesn't feel like it has a scene that goes.
I was going to say
next time.
I don't think that they planned for it to have a sequel because, like you say, it's based on a graphic novel and they didn't know how well it was going to do. But I think that one of the things, I don't know if it'll ever come to fruition, but apparently it is one of those films that they're trying to get a sequel out of.
I don't know if it warrants that.
Talking of really good scenes, long takes. You guys have seen Children of Men, right?
Actually, I haven't.
Whoa, just you and me, Dan. Let's talk.
Well, no, Children of Men has two really, really well done long take scenes, which I advise you. I advise you to watch the film because it's a pretty good movie. But it's also got two scenes that are just really outstanding, especially the one that takes place towards the end of the film. It's basically around 15 minutes. It doesn't cut away once. It's just Clive Owen in a sort of a war-torn, I'm pretty sure it's the UK because it's set in a dystopian future, but although it's kind of more like our present day now, it's set in a world where the human race has stopped having the ability to reproduce, so there's no more new babies born, and so everything's just falling into chaos essentially as everyone gets older and there are no new children. But yeah, there's a brilliant long take scene in that. So check out the film, but check out those scenes.
Cool concept.
I think
also
the youngest person is a celebrity as well.
Yeah.
Because they're just young. It's quite funny.
Yeah. Like, well,
I guess
If I could spoil the start of the film by going into it.
No, don't.
But I don't want to.
If I'm mistaken, don't.
Because it's a good. You're right, yeah, but it's kind of, you find out in the first film and the first scene, and the first scene's actually it's a good one. It's an unexpected
really
start,
Yeah,
and it's got Radiohead in it as well.
Oh, there we go.
Now we get it.
Life in a Glass House is playing in the Michael Caine's little
Throw
house.
stones.
Exactly, James. Finally getting it. You getting it? They are a good band. I mean, they are.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
I mean, they are. It's not up for debate. I mean, cut this, Ben. But
yeah, as we mentioned earlier, the whole cinematic universe and how it's taken the world by storm. Obviously, I'm going to have to talk about Captain America Civil War, because it's really fucking good.
Oh.
Like, so good. I rewatched it, fairly recently. And, I went in obviously knowing I'm going to like it. And I was like, it's so good. It's done so well. And, we all sat down and watched Batman vs. Superman. And it got brought up in there. Because it really is, either end of the scale of how well and how poorly you can set up why two characters fight.
Yes.
Sorry, I was you guys have seen this film, so I was giving you a pause for you to actually jump in.
I
and
thought
join the
again,
conversation.
you spoke as if you were going to keep going.
Sometimes I'll just start a sentence and I won't know where I'm going with it.
No, I do think that film it sets up the rivalry really well, and then the sort of culmination of that in the airport sequence is, I don't know, I think it's some of the better choreographed stuff that Marvel have done. Some Marvel sequences, as much as I love Marvel, some Marvel sequences can feel a bit flip-floppy and they don't really matter and there's no weight to them, whereas having these sort of the sort of flying characters like Vision and Iron Man, but then the sort of grounded human characters like
Cap, Bucky.
Cap, Bucky, Black Widow. Having that sort of balance made for some sort of really well choreographed sequences that used both the sort of CGI aspects of each character with the physical aspects.
It's during the day. You can see it.
Exactly.
You can see what's happening. And it's I think I don't recall it being it's not like a Bourne movie. You can kind of see the action.
Yeah.
So that's, at least it's I can actually see what's going on. It's one of my favourite. If you're gonna rank the third act Marvel fights, it's one of my favourite third acts in a Marvel movie, because it's not just a big slug out. It's a little slug out. It's a more.
But it's more. I was gonna say it's more personal. It isn't just this guy's the bad guy, so I'm gonna kill him and his army. It's there's personal stakes in there, but also ones that make sense.
The other thing I enjoyed is that it's not just sort of one all-out wide-shot fight as well. It's the fact that each of them sort of pair off and go off in different directions, and you get the Black Widow versus Hawkeye fight, where you can tell that they're both pulling their punches because they are friends, but they're also on opposite sides. And you get another one of my favourites is the sort of Winter Soldier and Falcon versus Spider-Man bit in the middle of the airport. I love how sort of well balanced and choreographed that sequence is.
Good introduction for Spider-Man.
Great introduction.
Very good.
It was legitimately quite. It was kind of cool when Spider-Man's finally in the MCU, and he just kind of his first shot and his yeah, exactly.
The best bit's when he catches Bucky's arm. That's the best.
Yeah.
Bit. It's not a problem.
Yeah. I was going to say, because they've shown it's one of those things. They've shown Spider-Man has super strength in all of Spider-Man's films. That's not been a problem. But this is the first time where we've seen him go head-to-head with a hero that we know is also very strong and hits very hard. We've seen Bucky hit other people and send them... we've seen Bucky hit Cap and send him flying. So the fact that Spider-Man just catches his arm no problem.
Yeah.
I just also think
it's like a great introduction for how strong Spider-Man actually is.
I think it's a testament to how well they sort of wrote this film and how well they sort of crafted the storylines in it. In that it's 5 years later and there's still conversations online of Team Iron Man versus Team Cap, like who was right, who was wrong. Like I think they crafted it really well in that neither of them are really in the right totally. Like there's sides to both of them.
Shades of grey, yeah.
Yeah.
I really like the bit when the Cap's like he tries to talk to Iron Man in the third act. And he's like, "Oh, I don't care. He killed my mum." I was like,
that's a nice bit. It's like, you know, there's no reason with it.
Do you
it's
think
just
that was a bit
emotion and passion kind
It's
of
a
thing.
bit. It's also a bit of like
convenient?
just convenient for them to have the fight. Yeah, because
And
maybe they could
but-
stop and just have a conversation.
I mean
But-
that plot point though of like Bucky killed Iron Man's mum and dad.
What
Do you,
about
think
it?
do you think it should? I just thought it was a bit like, I don't know, like it was fine, but I don't know, I just didn't buy it.
I like it because it's this whole thing of, in this film you get the sense of Bucky sort of getting his memory back and all that, but then he's still consistently haunted by his past of what Hydra put him through with the programming that's still in his brain and the things that he did while he wasn't in control, but he still has to live with the fact that he did them and he's got these repercussions from them. Like it's not just and he's good now and yep, let's move on.
I think it's just like, I think he means like the odds that it's Bucky and
Yeah.
not just some other bloke.
Why
Well,
was
no,
it
it makes sense though because it's well, see, I get like the whole fact that you can see it doesn't really make
It was
sense.
perfectly framed.
But it makes sense that like Bucky would be the one to kill them because they were high up in Shield. They were founders of Shield.
No,
and
I get it,
Hydra
yeah.
taking down Shield. Like
I'm
makes
just being
sense.
anti-Marvel for the sake
Yeah,
of it.
well, fuck off.
Oh, okay.
There's no need to be that like that, is there?
He's been
Kind of
so
takes the weight out of everything you've just said. About measured argument. You just said Dan's won that actually.
Best rivalries, me versus James.
I don't care. He
win.
killed my mom.
Wait.
you were so careful and censoring yourself through all of that, and then
Sometimes you just got to go for it. Funny, innit?
Just exploded. I really like kind of characters that are both leads, they're protagonists, but they've got a philosophical difference and different beliefs, so the way they go about things is quite different. I'm a big fan of Jack Shepherd versus John Locke, science versus faith.
Good shout.
Okay.
They can talk about Team Edward, Team Jack. Are you Team Jack or Team Locke? Who would you follow in the art? Would you team up with Jack and go to the caves, or would you hang out with Locke and go on these weird drug-fueled trips in the woods and try and open up a hatch and get in a plane and stuff? You know.
I mean, Jack seems to be more sensible in the end, but Locke just seems more fun, doesn't he?
But that's the interesting thing. If we're gonna
I don't know. I always got weird, skin-crawly, creepy vibes from Locke.
Yeah,
What
but Jack's
from Locke?
Yeah,
What
man.
are you
He's not the
talking
kind of guy I'd want to be in a room alone with.
He's the
but-
what are you on about? He's the nicest Jack. You don't want to be in alone in a room
I was
with.
gonna say Jack's just
psychopath.
irritating.
Oh yeah, he is annoying.
Jack's got, like,
I don't know,
emotional
man. Just
problems.
just the lofty way that Locke talks. He's like, oh yeah, I know what I'm on about. I know I'm all this. I'm like, I don't know.
Bit
A
of
bit,
a
bit
know-it-all.
culty. You know what I mean?
In
Yeah.
the
Bit
first
cult
season,
leadery.
yeah, he does have that element. He is a bit culty. I'll give you that. But I'm not freaked out by him because he's just a warm guy, especially because we know his backstory. He's like,
Literally.
yeah, literally,
His
like-
spine story.
and all that stuff with his dad and stuff. So
Didn't get that until you explained it.
Too subtle, too subtle.
I'll be honest, like I know that Lost comes up a lot and I kind of just nod along. I have seen it, but only once, not for a long time. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of little stuff I don't remember.
so
Same.
good. Just
I
there.
remember really enjoying it.
Well, maybe we'll have to go back.
Me and Ben have
We
been
have to
talking
go
about
back.
Let's go back.
We have to go back.
rewatching it.
But I really enjoy the Jack versus Locke,
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
dynamic, and who do you like? There's a mad bit in the fourth season where it comes to a head where Jack's got Locke on the floor with a gun pointed at him, and he fires. And there's no bullet in it, and he fires it. He pulls the trigger, and there's nothing in it, and everyone's like, "Whoa, Jack!
Yeah,
like, what have you done?" Like,
There's a real like sort of fight for leadership between them in the group because everyone sees Jack as this like doctor, and he starts out as this reluctant leader, but he takes on that that leadership role.
Yeah.
I just like the way you say like everyone sees him as a doctor. He is a doctor. Like this is a fake
yeah,
thing.
no, it was a bad way to start the sentence. I was like,
Sees him as a leader.
Yeah.
No, it's
just made me
what
chuckle the way you
what
worded
I
it.
meant was because he's like this, because he's a doctor and he you know his first job, he starts like immediately tending to the wound and going around and checking if everyone's okay. Everyone just sees him as this natural leader, but Locke also has this sort of like charismatic sort of blind faith miracle sort of leadership. He does have that very cult like.
Yeah, it's the idea
he can
because
assemble
he thinks
people.
he has the answers, and people want the answers, so they
Yeah.
follow him. It's like you mentioned it, Ben, when you introed this. How I think some of the most interesting rivalries aren't hero versus villain, but when you both have the same end goal but different means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like different ways of going about it.
Can't believe I'm going to bring it up, but Killmonger in Black Panther is like that's an example of
absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
They, you know, Killmonger may be the villain, but he was like ultimately correct, and Black Panther kind of takes his he was a bit extreme version of it.
Yeah.
But Black Panther takes his kind of teachings and his ideas forward, and
yeah.
so that's like the two of them working
it
together would have been the best idea.
Yeah,
if
it
they
wasn't.
worked together.
It wasn't what he was doing that made him the villain. It was the way he went about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, killing people, killing innocent people.
I also just think that as a podcast called Spacemen From Pluto, we would be amiss to not mention a rivalry that spanned generations. Of course, I'm talking about Marty McFly versus Biff Tannen. All the way from 1885 to 2015. This rivalry's been going decades.
The
Tannens versus McFlys.
Yeah, Tannens and McFlys.
Mad Dog to Griff.
I love the
Marty McFly
ridiculousness behind that. Of like these families just always are born to hate each other, and they always look the same.
And they always lived in the same area. They've
I know,
never left
cute.
the tiny little hill valley area.
It's really good.
Yeah,
Biff
it makes sense.
Biff's just a great. He's my personal. Oh, I really like George in the first one. I love Biff. I love the actor. I think he has the most to do in those movies. He has the most fun playing Old Man Biff, Griff, and Mad Dog. So he's so good.
Yeah, man. There isn't really a weak link in those films.
There really isn't.
I think that's why they work so well.
Is there? Well, they recast Jennifer. That's not really like a weak link.
No.
I would say there's not... The weakest part about Jennifer, I would say, is maybe the writing. Like, they don't really give her a lot to do.
I'm watching Last Man on Earth at the moment, and Clara Clayton's in that. And there's a crazy bit. I was literally watching it last night, actually, in bed. There's a bit where Phil says, "I've got to go back to go get my brother," and then it just hard cuts and plays the Back to the Future theme, and he's just driving a DeLorean down the motorway. And I was like, "Oh my god!" Because you would, if the world's ended, you just go and get one, so and drive around it. It's a full-on. It's Back to the Future 2 DeLorean with Mr. Fusion and stuff. And I was like, "Wow, that's so cool! That's so cool." But yeah, he's a great bad guy, and I like those movies, like the repetition and the poetry, it rhymes, that stuff of like the same shots are reused throughout the history, like the behind the shoulder shot of the Biffs when he gets up and you don't see Marty's face and stuff like that. It's really cool.
And how like they redo the whole sort of chase sequence around the town square in 1955 and 2015.
Something very familiar about all this. Yeah,
man, they're very, very clever. There's a lot of clever stuff, particularly in the second one, of redoing it in the best way possible. Like you're not redoing it and trying to pass it off as something new. You're very you make it clear enough. It's like, remember how we did it then? We're doing it again. That's the point.
Like I don't know, people on the internet, people like kind of doubt or badmouth the second one in terms of like a time traveling romp. I love the second one.
I really like the second one.
I love the
absolutely
second
adore
one.
the second film.
Like, because the first one's more like just a wormhole film. It's just like, it's not like a time traveling adventure. The second one's like goes all over the place and incorporates the first film. I love the second one.
A lot happens in the second one.
Yeah,
like
loads goes on. Especially for the 80s, like how they especially when they redo Marty going back into the first one in the Chapman Under the Sea dance, like how they redo it with the effects. It's really well done.
Listening to some of the behind the scenes stuff from that film, it's mental. How I think someone summed it up at one point where they said the reason that the films are so good is it's like Robert Zemeckis would be like, right, so I want this to happen. And if they were like, oh, that's, we can't really do that, rather than him going, okay, we'll do something else, you go, okay, well, we're going to find a way to do it then. So, like, when there's the scene when old man Biff hands the almanac to young man Biff, and so that they could do it in the same shot, they built a whole entire rig of a mechanical hand that would move at the exact same speed as the camera moved and timing, all for just one shot, so that it felt more grounded and real that these two people were in the same scene. And hearing stuff like that, it's like, that's amazing, that like the dedication to the craft for stuff like that.
That's cool. Didn't know that. We'll definitely have talk more about Back to the Future as time goes on. Yeah. Big fan of those films. You found those films, Tan? Been a bit quiet.
Back to the Future films? Yes, absolutely. They're timeless classics. Say what you like, the third one, it's still watchable, innit?
I still really like the third one. I
haven't seen it as much as the other two, so I don't remember much about it. Me and Ben have spent many a work close listening to the soundtrack from specifically the third one, while quoting specific scenes backwards and forwards.
The amazing piece of music when ZZ Top are in Hill Valley playing the music for the 1800s version of Double Back while they dance, and the Doc can dance, and Marty's being pestered to do the shooting range. Son, he's like, tell him you can't do something a baby can do. Like, he's doing like that stuff. It's really good. Good shit.
Can't believe we haven't even mentioned this franchise at all. Is Star Wars. Because everything comes back to Star Wars.
Everything comes back to Star Wars. It's this is a topic we're going to have to do it again on another.
Oh yeah, I mean there is only one that I can talk about, and I'm gonna disappoint people, and I am gonna pull from Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, he's gonna,
because it's a great film.
Because I'm gonna pull the the Vader versus Obi-Wan fight from the end of Revenge of the Sith, because I absolutely love that fight.
Yeah,
it's such a good sword fight, and say what you will about all the flippy stuff, like the build, the sort of like it is kind of cheesily written build up to it, but I don't know, there's something about that fight. It's so good, and it still holds. As far as I'm aware, I did look this up, and the internet is assuring me that I'm right. But it still holds the world record for being the longest sword fight in a film.
Wow.
I think it clocks in at 12.5 minutes is how long the fight goes on for.
You can give the actors credit; they learned to do it. And the speed isn't. It's in camera speed. Whether you like it or not, they learned to do it.
It's a good fight.
It's a bit much for me. But
I think it just got a bit ridiculous when they're leaping about the lava, isn't it?
I don't get what's wrong with that though.
It's just a bit.
It's a film about space wizards, man.
I know, but it's not
sci-fi. If you keep it about, there's the antithesis of that. There's the amazing. There's a bit in the animated show Star Wars Rebels where Obi-Wan has another sword fight with somebody, and how that's handled is pitch perfect. It's not about the fight. For me, isn't about just the spectacle and fighting. If it was just a much more smaller focused fight about them, not just the lava and standing on beams and tower of fall. It's a bit.
But why can't we have both?
I think
that's my thing. Is I like the big spectacles, but it's also nice when you then take a step back and have the more reserved, meaningful ones.
You can have both. I just don't think the big spectacle worked as well for me. And personally, I think as well because it's the way the sabers doesn't look as good in that third film. They look. I know it's going to sound stupid. They look too fake. The way when they move them, obviously the light extends because it's light, but it looks too silly for me. I feel like Empire, Jedi, Phantom Menace got that bang on. For me, it got a bit too quick. I know I get it, all the Jedi, they can anticipate blood, but visually you've got to look at it. You still got to watch it.
Yeah,
For me, it was a bit too
I like
quick.
the way it looks.
I guess
I think, and this is the thing where it comes down to, like you just said, Ben, for you, and I think that's what it is. Like, it's preference. You're not sat there saying it's bad or it was made poorly. Oh, okay, well.
Sorry, go on.
But no, I think it is a personal preference thing. Like, I think, some people like the spectacles, big, epic ones. Some people like the smaller scale, more meaningful ones. Like,
yeah, I mean, I get that that's like over the top, but I saw it as this like culmination fight of this is the last time that Obi-Wan sees Anakin as he as he would like to remember him, and this is the first time. It's the first time he's meeting Vader, and the last time he's seeing Anakin's face.
Yeah.
So it's sort of this big culmination event, and you have the whole speech at the end that you are my brother, that has been done. It's been memed to death, but is still like a powerful moment that ends this sort of friendship and turns this over the top spectacle with lava everywhere just is what turns these guys from friends to enemies. It just shows how fast they twist.
Like, in one word, it's epic. And that's what it's meant to be. The score going on as well. I like it, man. But, it's also this thing of, Ben, I feel like you are tied to the originals because you watched them growing up. I will always have a special place for Revenge of the Sith because it's the first one I ever saw. It's what got me hooked, and like it's where my love of Star Wars came from.
They're just bad films, man.
No, but I mean, like, the fact that was the first one I ever saw, and it's what made me go, this is awesome, like, I want to get into this. Like, I will always have that special place for it.
That's fine.
Surely you watched the originals before the prequels?
I did.
There you go then.
But
so
I was also 3 when the prequels started coming out, so it was kind of the same ballpark.
But it's like that thing of what got you into it. It was your introduction to the universe.
Yeah, and as a kid, I loved the prequels. I loved Jar Jar as a kid. My dad won't let it go to this day. Loved him as a kid, but as an adult, you look back and watch it and go, "Oh, it's just such a shame that they could have been so much more."
I see,
and the Clone Wars and Rebels is proof of it. They could have been more.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I don't think Jar Jar's that great in any format.
I don't know. You wait till the Obi-Wan series when we'll see Anakin and Obi-Wan fight again.
Aren't there rumours that Jar Jar Binks is going to be in this Kenobi series?
Yeah,
he's listed.
Danny was
James Spader was listed for fucking WandaVision.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's Disney just go on and list every single actor they can.
Well, is that who can change the Google cast list? Like, how
Anyone.
official is it? Well, there you
Anyone.
go. I will guarantee people will have seen all the theories that came from James Spader being on the Google cast list and have gone, "Oh, let's create some theories around Jar Jar Binks." That's why it's on there.
Where realistically could Jar? I think the only way to bring Jar Jar back was just to have a cameo where we catch up with him and we see him as a washed-up street performer.
No.
Being teased by children and bullied by children, because that's apparently how he ends up.
We see him as an aged Sith Lord.
I was going to say, you give us Darth Jar Jar, that's how you bring him back.
Wouldn't it have been insane if in Rise of Skywalker it was actually Jar Jar instead of Palpatine?
It would have been absolutely moronic.
Phenomenal.
It just would have been.
It would have been, dare I say
amazing.
it, probably better.
I was gonna say I don't think it'd have hurt that film at all if it was Jar Jar.
It makes about as much sense.
It makes more sense than Palpatine coming back. He exploded. At least you don't know what happened to Jar Jar.
Well, no, because it's not the same body. It's a clone.
You don't know that the film.
Yeah, no, they do.
When do they do that?
No, they don't say it in the film, but I think it's like the novelization of it is said.
I can't make that as a valid argument.
Because they go.
What do you mean you can't make that as a valid argument?
The film can't do it.
There's the line delivered by Merry in Lord of the Rings where he goes, after the iconic line from Oscar Isaac where he goes, "Somehow Palpatine has returned."
Poe says
quite how he said it.
So yeah, I said it with a little bit more enthusiasm.
Gravitas.
Yeah.
Emotion.
Then the next line is, Dark Secrets of the Sith, Dark Cloning, or something like that.
Yeah,
He mentions he mentions cloning, and so that hints that we're dealing with a clone, not the original Palpatine.
I just love how clearly the film came out, and it wasn't very well received. So they released the book, the novelization of it, that had descriptions to try and fix some of the issues. So it's like when Kylo Ren meets Palpatine, in the book it says something of, and then Ren looked upon him, realizing that, looked at the decaying clone body of Palpatine, and it's like, oh, okay, so that's the way of telling us it's a clone. And the best one is when Ben revives Rey. Yeah, you, Ben, yeah. When he revives Rey at the end, it says, like, I think the book says something like, and then they kissed, not in a romantic way, but in an acknowledgement of their connection and friendship. It's like, oh, just piss off.
So stupid.
Come on, man. Just accept that you tried to make it a romantic thing and people didn't like it. It's okay to sit there and go, we did a bad thing.
But it's fine, because they're erasing the sequels now, so we don't need to talk about them anymore.
Yeah, but we're still going to every podcast. Specifically Rise of Skywalker.
You bring it up most of the time, Dan.
I didn't bring it up this time.
I just intended this to be a quick drive-by of the Star Wars.
You can't say the word
You
Star
can't just
Wars,
say
expect it to be
quick. You can't do it.
I'm sorry.
You knew what you were doing.
Anyway.
If we're talking about rivals that become friends, there's nothing epitomises it more than Rocky and Apollo.
I knew you were going to mention this.
Got it out there. You can't talk about Rocky and Apollo. They were rivals turned best mates. Great series of films. That's my
There is no tomorrow.
Yes. I want you. I'll cut this bit. The bit there's a Star Wars celebration before the Mandalorian came out, and Carl Weathers came out, and they were going like Apollo, and he went, I want you. I lost it when he did that, because it's like 30 years since he did Apollo. And I thought it was just the coolest thing.
Christ alive.
It was good because you saw an act. It's nice to see when an actor cares about the previous work that they're really well famous for, and they still show love for it and quote it. That's like Mark Hamill in the dead years of Star Wars. He still carried the flag and was happy to do so. That was really good. Anyway. Well, guys, I think we've talked quite long enough about movie and TV rivalries. It's definitely a subject that we will talk about again down the line. Who knows, mate? If we've got nothing to talk about for Kong versus Godzilla, we'll just do it. We'll just do it again in a couple of weeks' time. It'd be great. So do let us know down below if you are actually listening. If you want that again, or what other rivalries do you like?
Give us some
TV.
Give us some rivalries that you recommend.
Maybe any that you would like us to talk about.
Yeah.
Get our thoughts on some. Is it we didn't talk about Emperor versus Vader or Luke versus Vader, any of that? There's lots of Star Wars rivalries. I didn't talk about anything from Cobra Kai.
What?
I've got 20 minutes on Danny and Johnny. I could talk about all sorts. And with that, we'll wrap it up there, guys.
Yeah.
We'll call it a day there.
Oh yeah.
Do remember to like and subscribe, guys, if you've made it this far. If you have made it this far, comment down below.
Sonic was snubbed.
Alright. Do that then. Yeah, do that. But thank you for listening if on Spotify and Apple. And thank you for watching on YouTube. We'll see you next week for another episode.
See you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
See you later.
See ya.